You already know more about human vulnerability than you think. You just don't know how to spot the cracks yet. Every person carries wounds, and Nietzsche's 23 revelations will teach you how to find them and what they mean. This is the skill that could change everything about how you see others. This video isn't a surface-level breakdown or quick psychology tricks. It's a complete system divided into 3 essential parts, each one building deeper than the last. If you skip ahead or miss one, you'll lose the precision that makes this actually work. Stay with me because by the end of all 3 parts, you won't just see people's weaknesses. You'll understand the hidden pain that drives everything they do. From childhood, you're taught to take people at face value, to believe the strength they project. Nietzsche warned us that what appears strongest is often what's most fragile. People don't show you their weakness. They perform their strength. The person who seems unshakable may be one criticism away from collapse. The one who appears fearless may be paralyzed by a terror they've never named. What's most deceptive about humans is they don't even know where they're vulnerable. Most people are protecting wounds they've forgotten they have. Their confidence, their coldness, their perfection are all built around a core they're desperate to hide. This is why most people aren't lying to you about their strength. They're lying to themselves about their weakness. Nietzsche once said, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." But he also knew that what almost kills us leaves invisible scars. Those scars become the blueprint for how we move through the world. Here's what no one tells you. Vulnerability leaks constantly, not through what people admit, but through what they can't handle, the topics they avoid, the compliments they deflect, the way they flinch when certain words are spoken. Nietzsche's first psychological revelation is this: everyone builds their personality around protecting their deepest wound. Not because they're weak, but because they're human. That wound is always visible if you know where to look. Part 1. The surface cracks. The surface is where most people think the story ends. For Nietzsche, it's where the story begins, because every behavior, every reaction, every defense mechanism is a breadcrumb leading back to an original hurt. Once you learn to read these signs, you'll never look at human behavior the same way again. 1. What someone absolutely refuses to discuss reveals their core wound. Watch for the topics that make someone immediately uncomfortable. Change the subject, get defensive, or go silent. That's not random. That's protection. When someone says, "I don't want to talk about that," they're pointing directly at their vulnerability like a neon sign. The person who won't discuss their family probably has family trauma. The one who deflects questions about relationships likely has love wounds. The one who changes the subject when success comes up might be terrified of failure or success itself. Pay attention to what subjects create immediate wall building, because behind every wall is something that once caused unbearable pain. 2. How they handle compliments shows their deepest insecurity. The person who deflects every compliment with "No, I am not," or "You rate just being nice," is telling you exactly where they feel inadequate. When someone can't accept praise in a specific area, that's where they're most fragile. Watch what compliments they push away, and you'll find what they're most afraid isn't true about themselves. If they deflect compliments about their appearance, they feel ugly. If they can't accept praise for their intelligence, they feel stupid. If they brush off acknowledgement of their kindness, they feel unworthy. Nietzsche understood that we can only receive what we believe we deserve, so every deflection is a confession of unworthiness. 3. Their anger reveals their powerlessness. Nietzsche understood that rage is often helplessness in disguise. When someone explodes over small things, can't let go of perceived slights, or is chronically irritated, look for where they feel completely out of control. Anger is rarely about the moment. It's about the deeper place where they feel weak. The person who rages at slow internet might feel powerless in their career. The one who screams at traffic might feel trapped in their life. The parent who explodes over spilled milk might feel like they're failing at everything that matters. Anger is the emotion of the cornered. When you see chronic anger, ask yourself what corner they feel trapped in. 4. What they mock in others exposes their secret shame. This goes deeper than projection. The cruel jokes someone makes, the types of people they can't stand, the behaviors they viciously criticize, these aren't random. They're confessions. Someone who constantly mocks emotional people is terrified of their own feelings. Someone who ridicules failures is haunted by their own inadequacy. Someone who makes fun of desperate people is afraid of their own neediness. Nietzsche knew that cruelty toward others is almost always cruelty toward a part of ourselves we've rejected. When someone is consistently mean to a certain type of person, they're showing you exactly what they're most afraid of being. 5. How they respond to being wrong reveals their fragility. Watch what happens when someone makes a mistake or is corrected. Do they get defensive, make excuses, attack the messenger, or blame circumstances? The size of their reaction shows you the size of their vulnerability. For some people, being wrong doesn't just mean they made an error. It means they are in error. Somewhere they learn that mistakes equal worthlessness, that imperfection means rejection, that being human means being unlovable. They'll fight to the death rather than admit fault, not because they're stubborn, but because their sense of self hangs in the balance. 6. Their perfectionism points to their deepest fear of exposure. The person who can't leave the house without everything being perfect, who apologizes for minor flaws, who works obsessively to avoid any criticism, is screaming about their vulnerability. They're terrified that any imperfection will reveal what they believe to be fundamentally wrong. With them, perfectionism isn't strength. It's fear wearing a disguise. It's the belief that if everything appears flawless, maybe no one will notice the brokenness underneath. Nietzsche saw through this. He knew that the pursuit of perfection is really the pursuit of acceptance from those who taught us we weren't acceptable as we were. 7. Where they seek constant validation shows where they feel worthless. Notice what someone needs: constant approval for their appearance, their intelligence, their success, their goodness. That's where they feel empty. That's where they're most afraid of being found lacking. External validation is just an attempt to fill an internal void. The person who constantly asks, "Do I look okay?" feels ugly inside. The one who needs praise for every achievement feels inadequate. The one who fishes for compliments about their character feels fundamentally flawed. Nietzsche understood that we seek from others what we can't give ourselves. Every request for validation is really a cry that says, "Please tell me I'm worth something because I can't feel it." 8. Their competitive nature reveals their scarcity wounds. Some people can't let anyone else shine, can't celebrate others' wins, can't share the spotlight. This isn't confidence, it's panic. Somewhere they learned that there wasn't enough love, success, or recognition to go around, so they must hoard it all. The person who always has to one-up your story feels invisible. The one who can't let you have a moment feels forgotten. The one who turns everything into a competition is still fighting for scraps at a table where they learn they might not get fed. Watch how someone responds to others' good news, and you'll see their deepest fears about their own worth. When you start seeing these patterns, you realize something profound. People aren't mysterious, they're just scared. Every behavior that seems confusing makes perfect sense when you understand what one is protecting. Use this knowledge not to exploit, but to extend compassion. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's humanity. The moment you stop judging someone's defenses, you start understanding their story. People spend their whole lives building elaborate security systems around their tender places. Most of the time, they don't even know they're doing it. They think they're being strong, logical, or practical. But really, they're just trying to avoid feeling that original pain again. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. You walk through the world, and everyone becomes transparent. Not because you're psychic, but because you understand that behavior is just biography. If you've ever watched someone's face change when a certain topic comes up, seen the flash of pain behind someone's anger, or noticed how some people can dish it out but can't take it, drop a comment below. Let's talk about the moments when people's vulnerabilities were written all over their faces. If this video is opening your eyes to patterns you never noticed, subscribe because we're about to go much deeper into the hidden landscape of human fragility. Part 2. The deeper fractures. It's one thing to notice surface vulnerabilities. It's another to understand how they shape everything someone does. Nietzsche believed that our wounds don't just hurt us, they define us. They become the invisible force that drives our choices, our relationships, our entire approach to life. In Part 2, we explore how vulnerability operates below conscious awareness, how it creates the very personality we think we're choosing. This is where it gets fascinating because most people think they're making conscious decisions about how to be in the world. Nietzsche knew better. He understood that we're all just sophisticated wound management systems walking around, pretending to be people. The deeper you go, the more you realize that what looked like personality is really just strategy. What appears to be character is often just clever camouflage. 9. Their need to be right stems from feeling fundamentally wrong. Some people can't lose an argument, can't admit uncertainty, can't say, "I don't know." This isn't about ego. It's about survival. Somewhere deep down, they learn that being wrong means being worthless, so they'll fight to the death over trivial points, not because the facts matter, but because their sense of self is on the line. Watch someone who absolutely cannot admit they don't know something. And you're looking at someone who learned that ignorance equals abandonment. That confusion means rejection. That not having answers makes you disposable. 10. How they treat people who can't help them reveals their core emptiness. Watch how someone behaves toward waiters, cashiers, or people with less status or power. If they're dismissive or cruel, it's not because they're naturally superior. It's because they're desperately trying to feel superior. When someone needs to put others down to feel up, they're telling you exactly how down they actually feel. Nietzsche called this the will to power, but understood that sometimes power is just pain in disguise. The person who is rude to service workers is often someone who feels powerless everywhere else in their life. 11. Their relationship with money exposes their deepest security wounds. The person who hoards obsessively, can't spend on themselves, or ties their worth to their net worth is revealing an ancient terror of not being enough, of not being safe. The miser and the spendthrift are both responding to the same wound, just from opposite directions. One tries to control scarcity by accumulating. The other tries to prove abundance by depleting. Both are still that child who learned that resources, love, and safety could disappear at any moment. 12. How they handle being alone shows their relationship with themselves. Some people can't sit in silence, can't be without distraction, can't stop moving, or can't turn off the noise. Stillness means facing what they're running from. When someone fills every moment with activity, people, or stimulation, they're not avoiding boredom. They're avoiding themselves. Somewhere along the way, they learned that their own company wasn't enough, that their thoughts were dangerous. That solitude meant confronting truths they weren't ready to face. 13. Their jealousy maps their unhealed wounds. What someone envies in others is usually what they've given up hoping for in themselves. The person who's bitter about others' happiness has stopped believing they deserve it. The one who resents others' success has convinced themselves it's impossible. The one who can't stand others' confidence has decided they'll never be worthy of it. Nietzsche knew that envy is just self-abandonment in disguise. It's the soul saying, I want that too, but I've given up believing I'm allowed to have it. 14. Where they're overly generous reveals where they feel unworthy. The person who gives compulsively, can't receive, or exhausts themselves for others is often trying to earn the love they don't believe they deserve. Generosity can be beautiful, but when it's compulsive, it's usually compensation for feeling fundamentally unlovable. They learned that their existence wasn't enough, that they had to provide value to justify taking up space, so they give and give, hoping someone will finally say, you've done enough. You're worth loving just as you are. 15. Their humor shows their hidden pain. Pay attention to what someone jokes about, the self-deprecating comments, the dark humor, the topics they can only approach through comedy. Humor is often how we tell the truth, or we're too scared to say it directly. The class clown is rarely the happiest person in the room. They're often the most afraid of being truly seen. So they make themselves into entertainment because laughter feels safer than love, and being funny feels more controllable than being vulnerable. 16. How they end relationships reveals their deepest fear. Do they ghost, disappear without explanation, pick fights to justify leaving, or sabotage good things before they could be abandoned? Each pattern reveals what they're most afraid of experiencing, because how we leave is usually how we're terrified of being left. The person who disappears is afraid of being rejected. The one who creates drama is afraid of being forgotten. The one who sabotages is afraid of being disappointed again. By now, you're starting to see the web of protection everyone weaves around their core wound. You're noticing how someone's entire personality can be an elaborate defense system. You probably recognizing some of these patterns in yourself, because Nietzsche's insights aren't just about reading others. They're about understanding the human condition and realizing we're all walking around with invisible injuries, trying to protect ourselves from further harm. The beautiful and terrible thing about humans is how creative we become in our attempts to avoid pain. We'll reshape our entire identity, build elaborate personas, develop complex strategies, all to avoid feeling vulnerable again. Most of the time, we're so good at it we fool ourselves into thinking our defenses are our authentic selves. Nietzsche saw through all of it. He understood that behind every mask is a wound, and behind every wound is a story. But we're not done yet. In the final part, we go to the deepest level, where we explore how childhood wounds become adult vulnerabilities, how someone's greatest fear shapes their entire life strategy, and how to read the soul-level vulnerabilities that drive everything. You'll learn the final revelations that make human behavior completely transparent. More importantly, you'll understand that seeing someone as vulnerability clearly is the first step to seeing them with true compassion. Part 3, the soul level wounds. By now, you've learned to spot the cracks, read the defenses, and understand how wounds shape behavior. We're going deeper because behind every vulnerability is an original wound-up moment when someone learned they weren't safe, and that moment still lives in them, driving everything they do. Nietzsche understood that we never really grow up. We just get better at hiding our childhood terrors. If you want to read someone completely, you need to see the child that still lives inside the adult. This is the deepest level, the place where psychology becomes archaeology. You're not just reading behavior. You're reading history, the story of how someone learned to survive in a world that felt dangerous, and the strategies they developed to never feel that powerless again. Every adult is just a child who figured out how to protect themselves, and those protection strategies become their entire approach to life. 17. Their need for control reveals their original helplessness. The person who micromanages, can't delegate, or needs everything planned is still that child who learned the world was unpredictable and dangerous. Somewhere they experienced powerlessness so profound that they vowed never to feel it again. They try to control everything because chaos feels like death. They schedule every minute because spontaneity feels like abandonment. They manage every detail because surprises once meant trauma. 18. How they seek attention shows how they were ignored. Some people need to be the center of every story, the loudest voice in every room, the most dramatic person in every situation. This isn't narcissism, it's starvation. There's still that child who learned that being invisible meant being unloved, that quiet meant forgotten, that ordinary meant disposable. They make themselves impossible to ignore, even if it means being disliked, because negative attention feels safer than no attention at all. 19. Their people-pleasing reveals their terror of abandonment. The person who can't say no, agrees with everyone, or disappears themselves to make others comfortable is living in ancient fear. They learned early that their authentic self wasn't acceptable, that love was conditional on being what others needed, that having needs meant being needy, that taking up space meant being selfish. They became masters of shape-shifting, but lost themselves in the process. They'll sacrifice everything to avoid the feeling of being left behind. 20. Where they're harsh with themselves shows where they were harmed. Listen to how someone talks to themselves, the cruel inner voice, the impossible standards, the relentless self-criticism. This isn't natural. It's learned. They doing to themselves what was done to them because we internalize the voices of those who hurt us, and they become the soundtrack of our self-worth. The person with the meanest inner critic once had the meanest outer critics, and now they've taken over the job themselves. 21. Their relationship with success reveals their worthiness wounds. Some people sabotage themselves just before breakthrough, can't enjoy achievements, or feel guilty for wanting more. This isn't humility, it's programming. Somewhere they learned that they didn't deserve good things, that success would make them a target, that wanting more was selfish, that shining bright would make others dim. They keep themselves small to stay safe and dim their light to avoid standing out, because visibility once meant vulnerability. 22. How they handle compliments about their core shows their deepest shame. There's a difference between deflecting praise about your work and deflecting praise about who you are. When someone can't accept you're a good person, you're lovable, or you matter, they're showing you their deepest wound. Somewhere they learned they were fundamentally flawed. That something about their essential self was wrong, broken, or unacceptable. These are the wounds that cut deepest because they're not about what we do. They're about who we are. 23. What they do when no one's watching reveals their relationship with themselves. This is the final revelation and the most telling. When someone is completely alone, how do they treat themselves? Are they kind or cruel? Do they choose nourishing activities or destructive ones? Do they speak to themselves with compassion or contempt? How we are when no one can see us is who we really believe we are. It's where all the masks come off, where all the performance stops, where we left with just ourselves and our wounds, and whether we've learned to tend them with love or let them fester in shame. Putting it all together, you now possess something rare, the ability to see through the masks, read the wounds, and understand the stories that drive everyone you meet. With this knowledge comes responsibility, because vulnerability is a weakness to exploit. It's humanity to honor. When you see someone's deepest wound, you have a choice. You can use it against them, or you can hold space for their healing. Nietzsche didn't teach us to read people so we could manipulate them. He taught us so we could understand them, stop taking their behavior personally, and respond to their wound. Instead of reacting to their defense, the person who cuts you off in traffic might be rushing to a hospital. The one who seems arrogant might be compensating for feeling worthless. The one who appears cold might be protecting a heart that's been shattered too many times. This is the ultimate power, not the ability to hurt, but the ability to heal. Not the skill to exploit, but the wisdom to empathize. When you can see someone's vulnerability clearly, you stop being triggered by their behavior because you understand it's not about you. It's about them. It's about their story, their pain, their desperate attempt to feel safe in a world that once taught them they weren't. Here's what's truly transformative. Once you learn to see others this clearly, you can't help but see yourself the same way. You start recognizing your own patterns, your own wounds, your own strategies. Suddenly, you're not just reading others. You're reading yourself with the same compassion, the same understanding, the same grace. We're all just walking wounded, trying to make it through another day without bleeding too much. The person who irritates you the most is often showing you something you need to heal in yourself. The behavior that triggers you strongest is usually pointing to your own unresolved wound. The thing you judge harshest in others is often what you're most afraid to face in yourself. When you understand this, everything changes. You stop being a victim of other people's dysfunction and start being a witness to their humanity. Take these 23 revelations and use them wisely. Remember that everyone is walking around with invisible wounds, trying their best to protect themselves with whatever tools they have. Some people build walls, others perform perfection, others disappear entirely. Underneath it all is just a human being hoping to be seen, understood, and accepted despite their brokenness. If this video helped you see the wounds behind the walls, if you recognize patterns in others or yourself, if you felt the compassion that comes from truly understanding, drop a comment below. Let's create a space where vulnerability is met with kindness, where wounds are acknowledged, not exploited, where understanding replaces judgment. If you want to continue this journey of seeing people clearly, subscribe. Understanding human vulnerability is just the beginning. The real work is learning to hold that vulnerability with the tenderness it deserves, both in others and in yourself. In the end, we're all just walking each other home, trying to heal wounds we didn't choose to carry, but carry nonetheless. Maybe, just maybe, if we can see each other clearly enough, we can help each other heal.